An auction sold it to an undisclosed bidder for almost $1.5 million. It's the most expensive tractor ever sold.
The evolution and power of tractors have grown over the past few centuries to the powerful AI powerhouses of today, a mark of the giant leap in technology that requires less and less of a human's involvement. However, it is clear by looking back that this would always be the outcome, as brilliant inventors and engineers had created some truly unbelievable tractors going back to the early 1900s. Each old tractor is something that you must see to truly understand how special and game-changing they were when they were first introduced and sold to farmers all around the world. 1913, Case IH 3060. This old tractor, which was manufactured by the Case IH company over 100 years ago, is now considered a collector's dream tractor and has recently sold for $1.5 million. This has officially gone down in history as the most expensive tractor ever sold. Even among other antique heavy machinery, this one has outshone them all. When looking at the most modern and advanced tractors on the market, this one still is the most expensive considering how few remain in the world. Originally, there were around 500 of this model built and sold by the Case company, and the remaining are in the hands of private and museum collections. But what makes this tractor so unique despite its clear rarity? Well, while the Case IH company was founded in the mid-1800s, this tractor would be their entrance into their first forays into gas tractors, as they had been using steam-powered machines up until this model. Around the time of its release, it was priced at $2,500, which in today's terms would come out to over $70,000. This model had 30 horsepower for pulling and 60 horsepower for belt work, giving it the unique Case IH 3060 name.
Stored from 1986 to 1991 and sent to Washington, D.C., where it took part in thrashing on the mall with the American Folklife Festival.
This tractor was designed to handle a lot of work on large farms. It is quite a beautiful machine with a very old-fashioned frame and bold coloring. Its enormous back wheels draw the eyes and give everyone a feeling of nostalgia for the roaring 1920s and the style of vehicles they were driving back then. It was one of the first times that they made a machine to break up new fresh ground for difficult tilling work. This prairie-style machine was versatile and adaptable out in the field. It can be used to pull a giant liquid manure tank all across a field with no problem, allowing for the fertilization and upkeep of the soil. However, one reason so few of these models remain is its incredible large and cumbersome size. Once the newer and sleeker models were released, people simply did not want to pay for the upkeep for these powerhouse machines, so they were broken down for scraps and their metal repurposed for other things. Few people saw the value in preserving machines from before the 1930s, making them now extremely sought after in collectors' circles. This Case tractor is known for how it helped the farmers of the time become more efficient and finally move on from their horses. With its 90-gallon fuel tank and one speed gear, it was an easy two-wheel drive that anyone could use. The weight only reached around 26,000 pounds and is a classic hand-crank starter type, something no longer seen in tractors. It has an oil capacity of 9.5 liters and in general is a standard tread tractor capable of many of the tasks that farmers must perform today. Allis-Chalmers Model U. The Allis-Chalmers company is iconic for its amazing designs and timeless tractors that, even when they were first on the market, wowed the public. This Model U was a marketing and speedster's dream, as it set a speed record for tractors in 1935 that would not be bested for an astonishing 81 years. The story behind this incredible tractor is one for the books, as it all begins with the Allis-Chalmers company, which was ahead of its time when it came to its innovations and research and development. It was responsible for building one of the world's first particle accelerators and thrived on diversifying its many interests before deciding to really hone in on the agricultural field. The Allis-Chalmers Model U was something of a miracle, as many believed that this division of the company would be shut down soon. But instead, it was redesigned and the company landed a huge contract that would change the world forever.
Like this, and they're six-sided. You can turn them any different direction that you want to. You can put them like...
This contract was from the United Tractor and Equipment Company of Chicago, who wanted a machine that was large even for its time, that would be able to move plows and had at least 30 horsepower. Allis-Chalmers delivered on every front with their bright orange machine that would stay in production from 1929 until 1952. However, United shut down right after this contract, so Allis-Chalmers simply renamed it the Model U and gave it its iconic paint job and took the tractor world by storm. It was a standard tread tractor built in Wisconsin with a fitted factory steel wheel with a 3-speed gearbox. It was able to function when the operator would remove a shifter fork from the regular transmission. The engine was gasoline-powered with a tank fuel of 24 gallons and a weight of almost 5,000 pounds. There were a total of 19,000 of these tractors built, a very successful and attractive tractor. This is considered one of the greatest tractors of all time. For all that, it was not the most powerful. The tires were truly the biggest selling point of this model, as the pneumatic tires would go on to make tractor history. This Allis-Chalmers tractor was never introduced on rubber. It was running on steel wheels from the first time it was shown to farmers. However, the man in charge of the tractor division thought they could really work with rubber instead, something to set them apart. Few companies were interested in this particular deviation when it came to designing their ideal tractor. Merritt, the head of the tractor division, was friends with Harvey Firestone, a name many would know today, and he helped bring together this rubber tire idea into the world. The engineers made their tires with a lower pressure that had the tires running like a dream. It was discovered that the tractive power and efficiency would greatly increase with the use of rubber tires, so much so that it could draw twice as much horsepower than steel tires. The fact that the Allis-Chalmers Model U could plow twice as much land with the same amount of fuel was a revelation. It also contributed to its unmatched speed. Merritt, the mind behind this huge change, then set to promoting this beautiful poppy orange speedster and decided to hire the famous race car driver Frank Briscoe to help him. This race was conducted in front of 1 million people back in 1933, where Briscoe set and still holds to this day the top speed record for a tractor at a speed of 67 miles per hour. This tractor has forever left its mark on the world, as now the idea of tires made completely out of steel would surely get you some strange looks. Lamborghini Carioca, 1948. The first model, Carioca, was the first model Lambo tractor built in 1948, with a line of 16 models to follow it. Before sports cars and glamour, Ferruccio Lamborghini specialized in something much more humble: tractors.
Non è che arrivi in aeroplano. Se ad esempio un cliente anche dall'Inghilterra, dove è, dalla Spagna,
The iconic man actually grew up on a family farm where his father taught him everything he knew about agriculture and farming. However, as history shows, he had another passion and an excellent mind for engineering and design. This was designed in a market that was dominated by companies like Fiat and Landini, which were very expensive at the time. So with that in mind, Ferruccio Lamborghini decided that his tractor would be cheap but strong, something that could work for the small farmers trying to improve Italy's overall agricultural productivity after the Second World War. With all of this in mind, Ferruccio bought a ton of military equipment and modified the engines and feeding systems to make a very elementary level frame for his tractors, which he could then sell for a low price all over the world. He had multiple orders from the very start and was encouraged to expand his line because of all the great feedback and responses he was getting. Ferruccio's father would help finance his son's dream of expanding his business by putting the family farm up as collateral to help pay for the growth of the company. Ferruccio would upgrade his tractors after taking out such a big loan, and then he was officially established as Lamborghini Trattori, settling the company on a plot of 10,000 meters of land in the ancient Hippodrome region of Italy. One special feature of this tractor was that it featured a fuel atomizer. This means that the tractor could be running on petrol like any other tractor of its time, but then switch to diesel. It was also the first tractor in Italy to use all synchromesh gears, electric fuel injection, a power shift transmission, and even a water-cooled engine. These were all standard features in the tractors, something that other companies would charge extra for. The production of this tractor would see a great increase, from 1 tractor a week to about 200 tractors in a year within the first couple years of operation. For a small business, with machines being built out of surplus war equipment, this was astonishing. Lamborghini's innate passion, drive, and skill is what made his tractor business extremely popular and successful in the agricultural heavy machinery field. Without this past, he never would have had the money or connections to ever move into the luxury sports cars that are so famous and sought after today. Trattori Lamborghini is still active today, with a huge line of top-of-the-line tractors. The Silver Spade, 1950 to 1965. The Silver Spade is an earth-moving giant from the glory days of the tractor. It was manufactured by the Bucyrus Erie Group in the 1950s and was officially known as the Bucyrus Erie 1950B model, whose production ended in the year 1965. It was given the affectionate and glamorous name of the Silver Spade because it was meant to stand as a testament to magnificence and inspiration for all other machines after it. Few tractors would ever get any special or famous nicknames, but this shining spade that spent most of its life strip mining was very different. It would be remembered forever as a behemoth of the industry and set a new standard for super tractors to aspire to and reach. Nearly 75 years ago, the Silver Spade's spectacular ability to move millions of cubic meters of dirt was often relegated to a thing of stories and legend, considered to be more akin to a dinosaur than to other machines of its type. This beauty spent its lifetime in the resurgent coal mining in the middle of Ohio, making quick work of all its tasks. Its existence impacted the entire state as it flourished and saw incredible economic growth during the periods that the Silver Spade was in use. Taller than a 12-story building, it stood over 222 feet high. The Silver Spade weighed a shocking 14 million pounds and was as wide as an 8-lane highway, making it a true terror to behold as it thundered along. It had a dipper that was 105 cubic yards and could dig up almost 350,000 pounds of dirt in one scoop. It had a dumping radius of almost 200 feet, which means the machine could spin 180 degrees to pick up and drop off its overburden. You may wonder how it was able to operate, and the answer is 14 separate motors. This is only possible because of a 7,000-volt electricity supply.
The 8 crawlers mounted on 4 corners was the basic inspiration of the crawler transporters currently in use at Kennedy Space Center.
It was transformative for many families working in the mining industry of Ohio, as the coal industry needed massive mining shuttles, quickly, and that's where the Silver Spade made its name. This creation was so large and powerful that it had to be built on site, as having it moved to such a difficult and far-flung area was thought to be too much of a hassle. The knee-action dipper was non-negotiable, as this earth mover was being designed. It was actually a feature that was patented by another company, so Bucyrus Erie had to make a clever trade, where in return for the use of the famous cable crowd designed by Bucyrus, Marion would allow Bucyrus to use their knee-action dipper, which allowed for more cutting force to be applied. The Silver Spade would work for 48 years until other forms of fuel would eventually see the coal industry take a plunge that would pull this magnificent machine down with it. The need for a super machine of this size was simply not cost-effective or needed any longer. When machines of this size are no longer in use, they do not simply get tucked away in a shed. In the Silver Spade's case, there was only one fate left for it. Unfortunately, this shovel was dismantled sometime in 2007, as it was retired and deemed too expensive to keep standing. However, it is still remembered as one of the first super machines ever built, and the Silver Spade's legacy continues to delight and inspire audiences years later. Ruston Bucyrus 10RB Steam Shovel 1934. The Ruston Bucyrus 10, or also known as the RB steam shovel, was first introduced after many of the steam engines of the pre-30s had long been set aside and dismantled. When it was first sold on the market in the latter half of the 1940s, people were expecting something more modern, so they were in for quite the surprise. This steam-powered heavy machine was in production between the years of 1934 and 1969, and went against the trends of the time when companies were scrambling to adopt the latest gas and combustion-powered engines. When this Ruston Bucyrus 10 first arrived on the scene with an attractive but very simplistic style, its crane was easily its most memorable feature. The rest of the design was the very opposite of the sleek sophistication that was so popular in the new models. as it resembled a boxy outhouse more than anything, with only its handle making it stand out in any way. However, many would call it one of the first true heavy machinery ever made and sold. The few models that remain have been looked after with a lot of love and are still functional.
And seemed infinite.
It's great because it's lasted so long, showing a car that'll last 30-40 years and be.
The collection and restoration of these classic tractors are now more popular than ever given the rarity of them. The past generations were far more practical as they would recycle their old machines once they no longer had use for them. The upkeep of these machines can be extremely pricey, and farmers are typically unable to afford such luxury. Most of them have had some minor alterations, like a splash of extra color to freshen it up, or an extra attachment the owner needed to accomplish their goal. But without all the personalized additions and attachments, the Ruston Bucyrus 10 RB steam shovel was designed to weigh around 50,000 pounds, with the majority of it made out of steel. The RB10 measures at around 25 feet long and stands at 12 feet tall. It is powered by a steam engine, which would pump around 100 horsepower at its height of functionality. This machine was made to dig. Its bucket could hold around a cubic yard of dirt. Records show that around 7,625 units were made in total. One special thing about this model was that it could rotate 360 degrees on a conical section roller path. It was operated by a lever system that operated toggle clutches into the drum shafts. Eventually, there would be models offered that replaced the steam power with electric motors and diesel engines. The most common way people would choose to change the original design was to include things like face shovels, dragline, lifting or grabbing cranes. This machine could be found at many construction sites over the years, especially those used to dig up canals and help build railroads. It was also popular in mining operations because of its medium-sized build, allowing it to thrive in areas that bigger machines would never fit. The steam power made it essential in digging operations of any sort, and its moderately sized bucket still put it ahead of doing everything by hand in those narrow mining shafts. While few people would be impressed by its power today, it was certainly a favorite back in the day. The design was very simple, but in return, it was also very easy to use. The high level of reliability, ease of use, and surprising durability has it down as one of the best of all time. The steam-powered tractors were important to the public works being done in the 19th to 20th century until they were eventually upgraded. Case 150 Case Road Locomotive Steam Tractor, 1905. The Case 150 steam tractor is so iconic that someone rebuilt a replica of it just last year so that they could own one for themselves. They used the remaining designs, of which there were nearly all of the blueprints preserved by the company still floating around. It was created before the rise of the combustion engine and was at one time the most incredible machine anyone had ever seen, though few ever saw one of these bad boys with their own eyes. This steam tractor built in 1905 is so massive that its replica was named as the largest steam-powered tractor just a few years ago. With it reaching a weight of over 37.5 tons, it deserves its place in the record books. What could be so special that someone over 100 years later is pushed to create a replica when he learns that it no longer exists or is in production? The only thing left was a boiler of one of the 9 that were ever built had been dismantled and repurposed. The Case Company had only built 9 in the 2 years the model was in production, and they were designed specifically to fill in gaps on railroads by hauling heavy freight over the road. Copper mines and the like were the ones that had any use for this beast, being 3 times larger than any other tractor on the market at the time. The 150K steam tractor is remembered as a powerhouse of a machine, as it easily outstrips even the most impressive tractors out there today. Some may know it by another name, as many also referred to the Case 150 road locomotive as the 150 GP Case. The power and size of it could create a crowd of admirers, but for the people in the know, its greatest draw was always the tractor's fantastic rear wheels, which were 8 feet in diameter and 30 inches across. Few other tractors would ever have such eye-catching features, and today, many tractors appear interchangeable with one another. The engine was built for locations that would be without steam railway facilities. This was mostly the case in areas where the regular tonnage of their freight did not necessitate a railroad, so mostly smaller communities. This means that the hauling of heavy loads or plowing very extensive and large-scale fields would rely on the power of animals. This was a practical decision on farmers' parts, but of course that all changed when this 150 horsepower steam tractor was introduced with its 14 inches diameter by 14-inch stroke engine cylinder. The J. Case Company produced this steam engine and would become known as one of the most innovative and influential manufacturers of agricultural machinery and steam engines because of it. The design is impressive and powerful, with a capacity for fuel and water that would be enough to haul it for up to 8 to 10 miles without any issues. Its boiler was standard for the time, and it was mounted on springs that allowed it to travel even the roughest of roads with little issue or injury, which made it a winner in design and comfort. There was very little cast iron used in its design, and the driving gears were cast from a special steel mix that allowed for an extra wide face and heavy cogs to make it as durable as possible. This machine was built for rough and frequent use with enough power to move it along at a high speed. Weighing at 27 tons, it would need to be very powerful to move that much weight around without breaking down. Allis-Chalmers HD-21 Dozer, 1955. The Allis-Chalmers HD-21 dozer was made in the early 1950s and was the first Allis-Chalmers tractor to go over 100 horsepower and was among the most beautiful of its time with clean, smooth lines that marked it as a classic Allis-Chalmers design. It was developed directly from their model, the HD-20, and was made to compete more directly with some of the most powerful dozers out there with the help of the diesel engines that were acquired from the Buddha Engine Company. The D21 would become the largest model of the D-series. However, despite how impressive this model of dozer was, people these days will not be seeing any more of these being produced as the company shut down over 50 years ago. However, there are still some of these heavy-duty bulldozers floating around and still running. The durability and endurance of this metal beast is so great that you could run it for hours without even a small drop in performance. The HD21 weighs around 41,000 pounds, is 18 feet in length and 10 feet tall. The engine is diesel and can reach almost 270 horsepower with a fuel tank that can hold 135 gallons of gasoline in its tank at one time. Of course, this gave it an extraordinary amount of power for its weight and size, lending it a never-before-seen level of endurance. The specs on this heavy machine gave it a strength that is perfect to achieve all of the tasks needed to succeed in some of the most dangerous and high-risk tasks in a number of different industries. To add to its power and durability, this model has an undercarriage that efficiently handles its transmission system. This excellent quality machine has earned its reputation as a do-all dozer, making it a jack-of-all-trades that is easily adaptable to any task. The HD21 would often be seen on construction and mining sites because of its power and maneuverability, which allowed it to thrive even in difficult terrain, as well as its ability to move heavy loads of material and dirt. It was also extremely popular with different forestry tasks, from anything like clearing out fallen trees to true logging. It would often be spotted in the woods or different clearings where logging operations would be based. Its versatility was also favored in sandpits and reconstruction efforts because of its smooth maneuvering that allowed it to skate past sudden obstacles or dangerous areas. An Allis-Chalmers HD21 could be expected even in locations after a natural disaster. Its strength and reliability made it a top pick for people who needed to be assured they would see all their tasks accomplished. This bulldozer is also very accessible, meaning nearly anyone can learn how to use it without any problems. The cabin is focused on comfort and safety, making it easy to work with all day long if necessary. These days, this machine is mostly thought of as a collector's or restorationist's dream project, but it still manages to gain a crowd of admirers anytime it's in action. County 1164. The tractor model County 1164 was designed and manufactured in England by the County Company with an impressive Ford 401S diesel, 6-cylinder, liquid-cooled engine to power it. It is an impressive tractor standing at 70 inches and a length almost reaching 170 inches. It weighs almost 13,000 pounds with its standard cab and open center hydraulics. Only 35 gallons of fuel, it still has an impressive 8-speed gear transmission. This was one of the best-selling tractors ever created by the County Manufacturing Company. The fact that it was first built in the 1970s only makes it more impressive, as it had some steep competition in the market at that time. This beauty was a standout thanks to its power and ability to handle some rough handling. This bright blue tractor was easy to maneuver and quite attractive with its massive front and rear tires that dwarfed its frame. It is easy to see how invincible someone would feel operating it across wide green fields of grain. This fresh design was also special in that it was the first that also included an integral cab. It is no surprise if this model was by far the most popular and numerous ever produced by County. The County 1164 also has the honor of being the biggest farm tractor ever built by County, who based much of their models after Ford designs. The Stout tractor was a bigger and better version of the Ford 5000 driveline and a slightly tweaked and toned Ford 8000. This is the first tractor that was ever designed to crack the 100 horsepower barrier, which only gathered more admirers. Even farmers love to go fast and are interested in the power that such an engine could give them. As the model was produced, it began to change in subtle ways as County learned to increase the durability to keep customers coming back for more. Reaching a shocking 116 horsepower made it one of the strongest tractors of the time, as the diesel engine gave it lasting torque power, making it an ideal machine for a lot of heavy-duty work. The weight was carried gracefully and could fluctuate depending on the customization and attachments made by the operator. However, in general, its weight would remain from 4,000 to 5,500 pounds. The excellent stability of the tractor was largely attributed to its symmetrical and sturdy build. It was able to drive over all kinds of terrain since it had such a stable and strong frame that could handle the addition of all kinds of extra tools and attachments. The sky was the limit for what this tractor could be used for, something greatly appreciated as farmers got to work. The 4x4 configuration gave this tractor some excellent traction, and this tractor would rarely get stuck in any holes or muddy spots. However, the prosperity and popularity of this classic tractor would take a dip when the farm crisis of the 80s would wipe out all kinds of agricultural manufacturing companies. Now this model has all kinds of spare parts scattered all across Europe. However, for those in love with this particular model, they can always try searching for one on auction sites that specialize in classic tractor models. Ferguson FE35 1956. The Ferguson FE35 was manufactured by Massey Ferguson in the late 1950s and painted a fascinating gray and gold, giving it the name Gold Belly. It had quite the distinct color and design, more akin to one of the fancy vehicles so popular in the 1920s, giving it a charming and glamorous look that is typically not associated with tractors, especially not tractors designed in the 1950s. Manufactured in England, it was a utility tractor type meant to appeal to a wide range of people. It should come as no surprise that it was one of the most popular models made by the Massey Ferguson Company, or as it was known at the time, simply the Ferguson Company. Running on a petrol engine, the tin work was of the highest quality with beautiful tires and an engine with 34 horsepower. This engine came with different cylinder gasoline engine options and manual steering. Its brakes were a differential shoe, with an open operator station cab and a 6-speed unsynchronized gear transmission. Weighing at a low 3,000 pounds, this tractor was quite smaller than many others on this list. This tractor is unbelievable because of just how innovative and striking it was. It combined all kinds of features that people were looking for in their farming machines. It was easy to use, and it was a showstopper wherever it went. Being able to attach a second tractor to the front axle was something never seen before this model, and it inspired many after it. This unusual feature would lend this model some extra traction and greater power, something that many farmers in this period really appreciated, as their tractors could mean the difference between their success and destruction. The Goldbelly and its tandem tractors were used in all kinds of field conditions that would typically see a tractor put out of commission. It could handle compacted and muddy soil and areas that really needed some extra traction to become workable. This kind of issue is crucial when it comes to agricultural work, as many times the area in need of development will not be easy to travel or work on, so having a tractor like this decreases the risk, and waste of such work is priceless. The combined power of the tandem tractors meant that this model could now handle even larger implements than one would assume it could at first glance. Something extra to supplement its smaller frame was ingenious, as it could now handle moving heavier plows and wide seeders. This tractor was first launched with the Standard and Deluxe editions, later adding the Utility Edition in 1956. The interesting history behind this tractor is what has earned it the spot it has on this list, as initially it was not even designed for industry use, but it was so good, it was adopted anyway. This model was first designed to comply with the Road Traffic Act of the late 1940s, giving it a driving mirror and a loud horn. Around 74,000 units were manufactured by 1957, proving what a smashing success it was. The models and designs that followed this iconic tractor would be described as having a tractor design that has contributed the most to feeding the world, leaving an incredible legacy behind. Ford 8N 1947. The greatest tractor ever built is a title that can be debated until the end of time, but none can deny that the Ford 8N has a good argument for winning the title, as it is the best-selling tractor ever created. No other tractor can boast this claim as clearly as this Ford model, which would give the Ford Motor Company its first period of absolute market domination that would last for decades in the early 1900s. This iconic tractor is part of agricultural machinery history and played an unforgettable role in the history of American farming. It was first introduced in 1947 as part of the N series of tractors being manufactured by Ford. This series would sell over 840,000 tractors, marking it as the most successful tractor run in history. The reason this particular model would get so much attention is because of the success of its two previous models. By the time the Ford 8N came out, everyone was in anticipation and with their trust at an all-time high. This model did not disappoint, easily able to match the quality of its previous iterations. The improved features of this model included a 4-cylinder, water-cooled engine with a horsepower of 23.22 miles per hour and a transmission that had a 92-pound torque and 4 forward and 1 reverse mode. It weighed around 2,400 pounds with a wheelbase of 70 inches. There were around 524,000 of this model built, with a price of $1,400 back in 1952. Its incredible specifications and sleek red and gray design made it attractive when it first began production back in the summer of 1947 with its 4-speed transmission. The biggest difference between this model and the past ones was the increase in speed and its addition of the position control setting for the hydraulics. This meant it had an added flexibility that could be used in all kinds of soil conditions, meaning it was popular all over North America, able to function in all kinds of terrain and weather. This model has running boards and was the first Ford tractor that featured a clutch on the left side and independent brakes on the right side. In addition to those design features, it was also able to show off a wide-spaced front wheel design from the previous two models, giving it a familiar look. This meant that people who trusted and knew how to operate past models felt confident purchasing this new release. The most innovative aspect of this tractor was not its gorgeous design and color, but its 3-point hitch system introduced by Ford. This 3-point hitch system allowed people to have more precise control over every implement. It was developed by Harry Ferguson, and it revolutionized tractor designs forever after. This system was letting farmers attach and detach tools and attachments easier than ever before.
8N, and it's just in amazing shape, and it's spent its life brush hogging and
allowing for the most specific adjustments that let them choose different angles and depth for their work. This made the Ford 8N the most versatile and efficient tractor to date. This model is iconic and remembered for how affordable, reliable, and easy it was to use. It made a huge splash in North America after the Second World War and let small and medium-sized farmers thrive like never before. Eventually, the production of this model would end in 1952, but it is still a favorite for collectors. There are Ford 8N tractors being restored and displayed all over the country because it remains a powerful symbol of agricultural prosperity. Thank you so much for watching and liking the video. What did you think about our picks for the top 10 old tractors you cannot believe exist? Each one is special in its own and left an impact on the industry forever. But which was your favorite and why? Leave your thoughts down below and let us know if we left out your top picks from this list. Maybe we can add it to an updated top 10. To keep the fun going, share this video with your family and friends. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and turn your notifications on so you never miss a video.